I didn't know.
It's a land use?
Here yet.
No, I don't
I
think
think that was
so.
the same one.
You know, we were out
You did.
the
Regina.
next last week, because we were watching the game together.
I was with, okay, I was at a nice watch party, so like you're
Libby?
Australian.
That attendees in, and then you can, you need to wait.
We were out with
for-
my sister.
Was getting set when they attended, but I think the quorum.
Sean, I left something here for you. I left it right there on the table.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, good evening, everyone. This is the June 2nd meeting of the Community Board 5 Parks and Public Spaces Committee. My name is Libby. I am the committee chair, and we will begin by confirming if we have. All right. I can start. Okay. Let's. Oh. No, I see what you mean.
For the copy, send the copy of duplicate.
Hold on just a moment. Bear with us. We have a different updated attendance tracker, but we want to make sure that we are using that one instead.
Okay.
I will put the updated. Okay. Here we go. Okay. John's present, I'm here. Here.
Renell, do you want to log in and I'll make you co-host?
Yeah, sure. I'll do that right now.
Okay, great. It looks like we have a quorum, so I will start and introduce myself again. I'm Libby Hutton. I'm the chair of the Park and Public Spaces Committee. We go around the room, and so if members can state their names for the record, and starting with my vice chair.
Renell Vikram.
Amy Rowland.
Tom Ricardo.
Your next, Mike.
Mike, K-Bat.
Catherine Ellington.
John Harris.
Okay, and our members online.
Todd Shapiro.
Hey, John Rhodes.
BJ, do you want to introduce yourself?
Thanks. BJ, Community Board 5 event on this committee.
Great. Okay, so on tonight's agenda, we have a somewhat short agenda, but it is,
What kind of agenda?
we have a shorter agenda tonight, but it's mostly full of updates, and we will determine whether or not we need to have anything be a resolution item. The following items are, we'll have an update from Paul Evans, who's joining us from the Parks Department. We will have an update from Union Square Partnership about a comedy show addition for programming. We'll have a presentation from Bryant Park Corporation on their 2025 summer programming and the upcoming Army anniversary event. We will also have an update from Madison Square Park Conservancy on their summer programming and Conservancy news.
Okay with that?
And-
A little small, eh?
This one.
In advance of that, if anyone has any new business they would like to address to the committee that is not on our agenda, is there anyone who has any other business other than what I just outlined that they would like to comment on? Please raise your hand if you're virtual or indicate so in person. Michael Cape.
I would like to reserve my new business comments for at the end of the meeting when we have another one of these, yes?
Oh, okay.
okay?
This is the new business section, but if you would like to make a comment after we close the meeting, then that's
No,
possible.
no, I want to be doing it. Do I have to do it now?
You have to do it now.
I will.
Please try to keep your comments brief.
Oh, okay, I'll do it after.
Okay. Okay, seeing none, we will close new business and move on to our first agenda item. Take it away.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. I guess the biggest news I really have is that we have a new Parks Commissioner. It is, she is Iris Rodriguez Rosa. Commissioner Rosa has been with the Parks Department for a very, very long time in a variety of different capacities. Actually, I should have actually brought up a more formal resume for her, but she's worked in recreation. She's worked in several of the different boroughs, and she brings a lot of experience to this position. She was actually most recently the first deputy commissioner, so she was number 2 and now she's number 1. So we're very, very happy that we're gonna have a very, very smooth transition following Sue Donahue's departure. In District 5, mainly Union Square, the big news is that the summer programs are well underway. That starts with the reopening of the Torch and Crown concession, which is really going great guns this year. I think there any hiccups or wrinkles that happened last year. Every time you get a new partner and a new concession, and there's always a little bit of a wrinkle, but they really started going great guns. They partnered for a brief period for the Tulip event as a little bit of a kickoff. And but they're open in full swing. So it's we're very happy to have that space active at this time. In mid-May, I don't know if people are aware, but a couple of seasons ago, there was somebody set fire to the Christmas tree we were collecting for recycling. And that damaged the awnings. It kind of melted the awnings onto the facade of the building. And we've been challenged to get that stuff off the facade of the building because it's a historic building. So contracted by the name of Karcher, and I really don't know exactly what you would call them. I guess they're architectural restoration company, but they were doing some experimental work with us. Number one, just in how would you clean that kind of a building, but also in dealing with, I guess the kind of stain removal. And on May 13th, they came out and they actually did a trial cleaning and they were able to remove some of that, you know, a substantial amount of that burned on residues. That was really, we're very, very happy to have that happen. And that was in tandem with our Arts and Antiquities Division, who oversees the care of all of our statuary and other historic properties. So it's really, and also the art programs that occur in the parks as well.
What building was that got burned?
The building didn't get burned, but the
Outside.
the awnings were basically set on fire.
What building?
The Pavilion building in Union Square, where the restaurant is. So very, very happy that we were successful on May 13th at getting that stuff. I don't know if Union Square Partnership is gonna comment on Summer in the Square, but we do have the startup of the night market. It is undertaken by the same people that bring us the holiday market. The night market began, I believe, the first day was it's like Thursday and Fridays, beginning May 22nd. So it's going to give us a nice activation. Thursday with Summer in the Square during the summer will be a very, very busy day. But we'll also have night market on Thursday and on Friday, along with Summer in the Square as we go into the summer season, also the regular green market. So the park is going to be really very, very busy this year with the diversity of different types of culturally interesting and edibly interesting opportunities. Let's see. Oh, smaller comment you may be interested in knowing about is also there was something called Oliver's Monument, which was a small memorial to, I guess, park patron that was successfully replanted by Buffmonte. That's the landscape company that does a lot of the care down at Square. And it's very, very nascent, very, very delicate right now, but we also have a volunteer from the dog run who has agreed to help do some watering and take care of that new planting. So we're very, very happy to finally have that back in place and formally recognized as the monument to that person. So let's see, what else do I have?
Formally recommended by park.
Well, it's acknowledged because I think with one of the challenges we had with that monument was the family did not go through the proper
It's a-
channels
yeah,
to have it be accessioned. And so, and while I would not say that it's a formal monument, it is now recognized. We know that it's there. We know what the plan was. And so it's not going to be like falling by the wayside as it has previously.
Can I have the lady that presented to us
Last year, yes.
last year,
Mikhail Fox was,
is she the one that's taking care of it?
I don't know who the volunteer is. I think it's a band, but I don't know.
I think the band came from the dog park at a different time to speak on a different issue about pets, but we
And
can
if you
follow up.
wanted to consider something for Pride Month, I mean, it might make sense. to
Something
have
formal.
Something
Well,
formal.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
The community wants to do that and propose.
Okay, but it hasn't we would have to formally propose something to then have it be acknowledged by the park system. The park system doesn't really want it to be formally acknowledged, but now it's sort of in that
Well,
unofficial official.
well, I don't, let me give you, the answer I would give to somebody, just some community outreach.
The answer you would give to somebody who what?
When I'm doing community outreach. There is a process for everything. There's an on-ramp to everything. And so looking at this Oliver's monument, they didn't follow the on-ramp. I think Commissioner Bentley smiled on them and said, okay, you can do that. But there is an on-ramp. So so through the community board or through special events, you would make a proposal, it would be reviewed. And then we would decide if it's appropriate. Most of the time celebrations, memorials, can be accepted. I can't tell you what the criteria are. I can't tell you what alternative saying, but we have recognized that this is I don't know what to say. We recognize that this is a memorial that's important to the community. And so what I would say is you should follow the event protocols for something you'd like to do in the future. Don't just show up and say, let's do this. You know, there's a process.
Okay,
Follow the
so
process.
it is still not a formally recognized monument. Point of interest in the park, but it's in that sort of liminal space.
I think the answer to that question is yes.
Yes, okay, so the status is the same from the protocol, is what I wanted to follow up
I
on.
think that's correct.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, let's see. I always give you an update on safety, which I usually talk about syringe counts and also the summons that are given out by park enforcement, because they're always on the scene, keeping an eye on activities in the park. You should also know that as far as safety is concerned, we do have a regular inspection process every week. Parkland is inspected for 16 different safety drivers of safety. But we also do twice a year, we do a playground inspection where every playground, once again, same 16 criteria, but as part of our accountability for the state, we actually are audited on these things. And so to make sure that our play equipment is safe, we actually do the inspections twice a year. So we completed those in May as well. We do it twice a year. So I just want to let you know that. Okay, so on to the fun stuff about, let's see, summonses. So, and unfortunately, this data is not complete because there is 1 week's worth of reporting for the month of May missing, but there were 211 oath summonses given out for the month of April.
What's a both summons?
Oh,
There's both.
oh,
Oath. What is it? Oh, gosh. Office of, I can't tell you what the acronym stands for, but these are the things that, these are littering, things of that nature, anything you get a ticket. for.
civil matters.
Yes, thank you very much. That's the best way to describe it. Let's see, and our parks are really very, very safe in District 5. There's only 2 tickets that were given in Madison Square Park. And that's pretty good. It was actually just this past week. So parks are really very, very safe in District 5 once again. And on the syringe count, we had 1 syringe, once again, Madison Square Park. So I want to thank the Conservancy because they very dutifully report syringes that they find, and I put them into the system. They've only had 1, but for the month of May, there were 3,917 syringes for the borough of Manhattan. And once again, Highbridge was kind of leading the leaderboard with 380 syringes. Yeah, well, different neighborhoods have different issues, 380, 359. Yeah, that was in the, just this past week, 380 syringes. So once again, that negative behavior, that unsafe behavior, we're using this as a metric. It shows you how safe the parks really, really are. That having good programming and having good management gives you a very, very safe location.
Do you have the location in Madison Square?
As a matter of fact, let's see. Put that. Let's see what's on here. I think I do have that.
You mean where in the park it was found?
Yeah, let me just see if I can says. Okay, one needle under the bench on Fifth Avenue next to 25th Street entrance. So.
Mayor, 26, okay.
Yeah, so no surprise, near a bench, possibly near an entrance, places where there was a entranceway with shrubs, where you can kind of hide.
Right.
25th Street, you said?
25th Street, yes. But it's only one, so that's really very, very good.
It's like across from the appellate court.
Mm.
No,
Yes.
that Helicourt's on Madison Avenue.
Oh, we did, it's 25th.
Okay.
It's the other side.
And
Nobody gets away with that crap.
that's my report. If you have any questions, I'm very happy to take them and, answer if I can, or just research.
Does anyone have any, thank you so much for that lovely update. We really appreciate all of the detail. Does anybody have any additional questions for Paul? I think we answered a lot of them in the process, but does anyone have any questions? Please keep them really specific to topic. Yes, Michael K. back.
I would like to ask Paul Evans, he said Thursday, there's a lot of stuff going on, and I see there's a jazz thing. And what else on Thursday?
Well, when I said Thursday is a very busy day, I meant that is as we go into the summer season for Union Square. We have a lot of things going on the South Plaza, on the Center Lawn, and things going on in the North Plaza. Those are the spaces we program as special events. Thursday is very, very busy because on selected Thursdays, there will be a night market. And also, as we get into the busy part of the summer, that is when Union Square Partnership will be doing its Summer in the Square cultural programming. So those are two things happening on
Cultural?
Thursdays.
Cultural?
Yes, the we've heard about this at the last meeting, and Union Square Partnership is also with us to add an additional note to that about additional programming that is happening later this week. As an addition to that programming that we heard at our last meeting. It's the normal programming that Union Square Partnership does.
Do you have an extra copy of that to give
Um,
the schedule?
well, actually, it's not a schedule. It's actually an internal document that just tells us.
I get it,
What's
okay.
Does anyone have any additional questions?
So at the south side, at the south end of Central Park, is there also a summer market? Like a summer on the square? I know we had heard that there was a market for the holiday, but I was wondering if there was one for the summer.
That I don't know. It's funny, 'cause I believe it is the same operator that does both
It is.
holiday
Mhm.
markets. I don't know what Central Park's
Well,
plans
actually,
are.
yeah. Mhm.
I don't know what Central Park's plans are, but I'd be very happy to find out that.
Thank you.
Send it back to the office.
Yeah, especially the operators, the same, we have a special interest in.
You're whispering.
We have a special interest in if the operator is listening too. Does anyone have any additional comments? Or questions rather? Great. I have a comment, called the load in for the night market, on Thursday, Friday. It's much smoother and did not block the bike lane, which it was a much faster process and much less chaotic. So good job, improved from last year. The vendors did a much better job. Okay. And with that, thank you very much. We'll continue onward to the rest of our agenda items. And just as a reminder, I will ask the applicant and their team to present their update and introduce themselves and provide the overview of their topic. After the presentation, I will open the floor to questions from the committee. Please try to keep your questions very narrow to the topic. I want to make sure that everyone has a chance to participate. And so please raise your hand if you wish to speak and wait to speak until you're recognized by the chair. Again, comments brief. And after the committee discussion, I will invite members of the public to comment. If you wish to speak, please raise your hand, and in the virtual platform, I can acknowledge you or person. Yeah, and then we will enter the business session, at which point only members of the committee are able to speak, and no further input from the applicant or the public will be allowed unless specifically requested by the chair. So we will be looking at our first item, which first up is the Union Square Partnership Comedy Show, the addition to the summer programming that we previously heard that is coming in under the wire. Ed, are you presenting on this one?
I'm here. I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes.
You can take it away. We're ready for
Okay.
you.
Thank you, Libby, and thank you, Community Board 5. My name is Ed Janoff. I'm Deputy Director and Chief Strategy Officer of Union Square Partnership. And thank you, Paul Evans, for giving that update on all the stuff going on. I'm going to go to a share screen now. I'm going to very briefly recap what I presented at the April 28th meeting and then talk about the new addition to our Summer in the Square series this year. All right, and can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Great. Recapping our Summer in the Square series, which is now it's honestly in about 40th year, but in its current incarnation in about its 19th year. So we focus our programming mainly on Thursdays. You know, that is one of the few non-green market days. And so in the past, it had been sort of morning through evening programming all over the park all day. And we've kind of honed it down this year to the things that either had the best attendance or the best response in our community opinion survey last year. The basic elements of Summer in the Square this year are going to be Music in the Square by the New School. It's a jazz trio in the center lawn that happens on Thursdays at lunchtime, starting this Thursday through mid-August, skipping the holidays. We're also going to be bringing back the Movies in the Square. Last 2 years, we did it in the center lawn, but this year we're moving it back to its pre-COVID location on the North Plaza by the Pavilion. So it's going to be 4 evenings from late July through late August. Comedy in the Square is the new event that we're adding this year, which is this Thursday, and I'll get into more details of that later. Then, as Paul mentioned, we also have the Union Square Night Market that happens on 29 dates on Thursdays and Fridays on the South Plaza. And that started last Thursday. And Libby, thank you for noting the parking. They were required by the Parks Department this year to get a specific parking permit for that event. And I think that really helped with the loading in the afternoon when they were loading in. And so that's Thursdays and Fridays, starting last week through mid-October from noon to 10 p.m. on the South Plaza. And then finally, pickleball, which has happened for the last couple of years, which had been sort of courts that you could rent on Thursdays for 4, 5, 6 different Thursdays. This year, we're just bringing it down to one day, and it'll be kind of more of a pickleball festival for one Thursday, and that's going to be on August 21st. So again, I presented that last month, but or April 28th, but if anybody did have any questions on those, I'd be happy to answer them. But today I'm mainly here to talk about Comedy in the Square. But before I do that, I just want to give you an overview. I know that this is going to be small on a lot of people's screens, but this is the site plan for the sort of entire program, so you can see where things lay out. In the middle is where that lunchtime music happens. Again, it's a New School jazz trio just off the gravel in a little grass area. It's really just sort of ambiance music for an hour or two during lunchtime. The South Plaza is where the night market happens on Fridays and Saturdays, again, from last week through mid-October with a break during the hottest months in July and August. And then the North Plaza is where we're bringing the movies. So it's 4 movie nights, July and August, the Pickleball Festival on August 21st, and then the comedy show this coming Thursday. So North Plaza in front of the Pavilion. The layout that we're going to be using for the proposed comedy festival on Thursday is the same layout basically that we've been using in the past for movies. The idea being that you set up a stage a screen for movies, but in this case, a stage on the east side of the plaza, and it faces towards the west. And then you have a viewing area in front, as well as a Union Square Partnership tent and info tent. That way the crowd kind of spills back to the west, and then behind the stage you would have any support. This will require a generator, and then we'd have production parking on 17th Street. And I have more details on the content in a moment. The idea is that they will load in this setup, so basically this stage here in the afternoon between 12 and 5, and then the event is really between 6 and 9:15 p.m. this coming Thursday. And they're going to set up 400 chairs in front of the stage. This is free and open to the public. And then if there was additional, there would be sort of standing room behind and around those chairs. The event would continue to 9:15, and then immediately afterwards, they would load out and be gone before midnight. There's no food service, there's nothing for sale, there's no alcohol service. However, as has happened with movie nights in the past, the event will intentionally be viewable from Torch and Crown. So if somebody wanted to go to Torch and Crown for food and alcohol service within their normally designated footprint, they would be allowed to do that. And so Torch and Crown, they will orient their seating to invite people to be able to see the show. So again, you have to go into the Torch and Crown, into the regularly designated footprint for that, but you would not be allowed to consume alcohol in the viewing area or, order in the viewing area outside of their footprint. The event will have at least 5 security officers and kind of 7 production personnel on staff, although we requested additional PD support, and then our team also has 3 public safety officers, et cetera. We may have a few barricades along this area just in order to separate this crowd from Torch and Crown sort of normal customers, that if people were coming to Torch and Crown, they wouldn't be blocked by a crowd. So just kind of keep the crowd a little bit to the north of Torch and Crown seating area, or have at least a kind of a 10-foot buffer. And so that also, people can get from the west side to the bathroom, and, folks in wheelchairs can get across, and Paul's staff can get to their office, et cetera. So there may be a few barricades on the south side just for crowd control, but there won't be, it's not going to be a barricaded site. It's not a ticketed entry. It remains free and open to the public. Again, just the same as the movie nights that we've done for a long time. And then the last thing I want to just add is the talent, which I'm able to share. If you guys know comedy, some of these folks might be interesting to you. There's a few Saturday Night Live folks and alum, and nobody here is A-list.
Would it be possible for you to name who they are in case
Can you-
anyone
yeah,
is
you
visually
can't see
impaired?
this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The names of the lineup are, so what will happen is that I said the show starts at 6, so it would start with first a DJ and a band. The band is Telescreens, and they would be on from 6 to 6:30, and then the host would introduce the acts, and there would be 4 or 5 acts over the course of about 2 hours and 45 minutes. So, because the show ends at 9:15. The performers would be Pete Lee, Shane Torres, Rachel Feinstein, Sam J, Chris Red, and Emil Wakim. And so those would be the performers through 9:15. And then after that, they close up and shut down. So that is the concept. It's being produced by New York Laughs, which is a nonprofit that does free comedy, has been doing free comedy in public spaces for a while. And this is part of the New York Laughs Festival that will be happening in different venues around Union Square, indoor venues, on Thursday, this being kind of the one free outdoor venue. And with that, happy to take any questions.
Great. Thank you so much, Ed, for the update on your programming. Are there any questions from the committee members? Catherine.
It is great to see so much robust programming, and with the warm weather coming, and New York is still doing its thing with its own vibe. I just want to know about the movie nights. Are those screens only for movie nights, or will you be doing any other, like, a team is playing, so you might show us their game or the US Open or something like that on those screens?
Right now, we have 4 movie nights planned, so I'll just skip back to that really quickly just to show the dates again. So it's July 24th, July 31st, August 7th, and August 21st. So this photo is from a pre-COVID year, but it would look, roughly something like that on the North Plaza. We are only planning to do it on those 4 Thursdays. The partner there is Alamo Drafthouse, who is, they run cinema, so they'll be providing the movies. Right now, that's all we're planning. If a sports team wanted to do a viewing party, that would be at their interest, their discretion and their expense, but we don't have any of those planned right now.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any other questions from any members of the committee? Michael Payback.
Yeah, thank you. It's great that you're offering all of this great free stuff on 14th Street. Will there be closed captioning for people who don't hear so good? For any of the comedy or for the movies?
I think I'm going to ask about the movies. I'm confident that there won't be for the comedy because it'll be live, and I don't think that they've got that capacity. I will get back to you on that question for the movies. I'm sure that Alamo Drafthouse has something that they do in their theaters. I'm just going to ask them if they can bring that technology to this outdoor venue.
Are there any other members of the committee who have any questions about the comedy night? Great, seeing none, are there any members of the public who have any questions? Or, sorry, are there any members of the public who would like to make a comment? Charles Nye.
Charles, you can unmute yourself.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Perfect. I would like to, along the what was already said about you know, accessibility features for those who are hearing impaired. I was wondering if there's been any thought, especially with inclusivity, to have audio description for some of the movies, or to have live audio description. There's organizations on the Mayor's Office for People with Disabilities website that has lists of different companies that can offer that. I was also wondering about improved accessibility to the night market for those who are mobility impaired, such as those in wheelchairs and people who are blind and might not have any one to assist them. If there's some sort of way to provide assistance, or even to have hours open for people with disabilities, maybe you know, before the market's open to the general public. And I was also wondering about the comedy acts. Just wondering, we're living in such a, you know, tough times at the moment with a lot going on. Sometimes some music artists or comedians will try to make political statements and things like that, and you know, say inappropriate jokes and things like that. What is the vetting process that you went to hopefully make sure that these comedians, you know, stay, you know, on topic and not say anything too controversial, or make any uncomfortable political statements and things like that? I don't know if there was any vetting into that. Thank you.
Can you wrap up your comments, please? Thank you. Ed, if you would like to respond to that, you are welcome to respond.
Sure. So in order, first of all, for the night market, in terms of accessibility, the night market is accessible using the ADA ramps that are on either side of the South Plaza. Basically, what you, and this is the same thing that is true of the holiday market, when you can enter from a ramp on either side, and then you are at this kind of mid-level, and then to get up the steps to the next level, you go back to the ramp and go up to the next level. So, you know, in terms of like meeting the standards for accessibility, it's there. As far as having a person who can assist, that I'll have to get back to you because I don't have those guys on the call today. But again, I can answer that question for you. And I will also get back to you if you want to, if you could. Well, I'll ask the Mayor's Office of Accessibility what standards or what tech that they're aware of that I can share with Alamo to see what we might be able to do. But if you are aware of any yourselves, or if any of the other, you know, parks, et cetera, like Bryant Park, et cetera, do movie festivals, if you're aware of any of those, please share them with me, and I'll be happy to bring them to the producer.
Dan here is saying that they can help you from Bryant Park. You can coordinate some of that too, so.
Perfect, perfect.
How about we do learning?
And then finally on the act, that was sort of the first thing that we brought up when we were approached with comedy. We were like, well, you don't see that much comedy out in the public, and you need to be sensitive to the fact that, you know, you are near your people's windows and you're in a playground, et cetera. So they said, this is not the indoor act. This is not going to be, you know, really raunchy comedy. They said it'd be PG-13, and to assure us, they said nothing worse than the movie Moonstruck that you showed last year. So, you know, it's not going to be anything really particularly controversial or adult in content. And these are all, you know, professional comedians. And quite frankly, I think this is an event that would like to be invited back. So they gave us their assurances that this is going to be, you know, I wouldn't necessarily call PG-13 family friendly, but it is not going to be, you know, offensive, cutting edge kind of comedy.
Thank you so much, Ed. Really appreciate that. I don't see any other hands from the public. All right, closing the public comment, putting us into business session. Does anyone feel the need to make a motion on this, or are we good on?
I just have a comment.
Okay.
Well, I'm looking online. It seems like there are live transcription services that can be used for the live comedy event. I think something that you should definitely explore.
What's a transcription?
Thank you. Yep.
Service?
It's something that creates a bunch of words, a transcript of
Like
a
closed
record.
captioning.
Yeah.
What you
So
say on the
written
screen
words
now.
of what is being spoken in real time.
Sorry, it's very small.
It's very, very small on our screen here in the office for those at home, but it can be done in a variety. Okay. Moving on to our next agenda item. We don't need to take any action on this because we've already heard it. And we can follow up individually with the program that we wanted to take actions on, but because we need the last meeting, so there's no action need. So moving on to our next agenda item is the presentation from Bryant Park Corporation on their 2025 summer program, as well as an upcoming US Army anniversary event on the Park Terrace. And I'm just going to take the privilege. Thank you, Ed. You don't have to stay for this, but we always love having you.
Thank you.
Really, really appreciate you. That it'd be possible to have, I see Lieutenant Colonel Rhodes is here. If you would like to go, and you can just give us a very brief presentation, just so the committee is aware. This is an event that's happening on the terrace. And our partner Kelly has been very great about making sure that we're really aware in advance of meetings, of events that are happening. This is not a commercial event, but because it is a larger event, we wanted to make sure that we were hearing it. But if you want to go first, because we have a longer agenda item, you're very welcome to go now.
Just watch transcription. Now it's bigger. It's going a little slower.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm up, is that correct?
Yes, that's
Did
you.
did Kelly want to say anything first, before I go ahead and give this brief description of what's going on?
No, you
Okay.
guys go ahead.
All right, thanks, Kelly. So, hi, and I have this very long formal name, but I just go by Rocky since I was born. 'Cause my grandparents got married in Rockland County. It's a long story. Yeah. So, Catherine, if you could throw up the slides if you can, I'll just get started so we don't wait for them. So it's the Army's 250th birthday, and that was maybe not so much of a big deal till recently. But just if we could go to slide the second slide, Catherine, slide 2. So there is the Army's it is our 250th birthday on June 14th. It's also the 250th anniversary of the US Army in New York City in 1775. That's when they started fortifying the city during the Revolution. We're celebrating that in many ways across the country. The Army is really only 4 cities where they're focusing their celebrations. New York City's in red. The reason why that's red is because For the last 15 years now, we've celebrated the Army's 250th birthday here in New York City, specifically in Times Square, but also in City Hall, the mayor's office. This year, we're also going to do an event at the City Council. Those events are largely very formal, not really open to the public. And for the 250th, now just briefly about myself, I'm the recruiting battalion commander for New York. So I have Long Island, all the boroughs, Westchester, and what we wanted to do that's different is the reason why it's red is that while the Army has endorsed our celebration, we're the only celebration that is completely internal run. We're not receiving support from outside of the state of New York and mainly from the city. So we're running this ourselves. And so we want to celebrate with our families, our friends. My battalion, my recruiting battalion, about 90% of the battalion are New Yorkers, city people, New York City, or live in the surrounding area. And we wanted to do something that was publicly facing, that was not really jarring to the community and family and kid friendly. And I'm going to kind of just briefly talk about it. And so if we go to the next slide, Catherine. So we have about 200,000 veterans in New York City. We are the primary face of the Army. We work all the time with the mayor's office to do veterans outreach to help our veterans. Not just the disabled veterans, but we do so much to get veterans jobs in the city. We worked our biggest employer is the city of New York, specifically the NYPD, FDNY, and the sanitation departments, but many others. We're the largest single employer for those organizations. So we do a lot of outreach to those events, and so we're trying to invite our veteran families to make it open to the public and just a really small but kid-friendly event that's open to the public. And that's kind of what we're doing here. So while I am not a New Yorker, so I apologize for that. I did marry one from the Upper East Side, lived her whole life. All my kids were born at NYU. Catherine, who's on here, is a New Yorker, as almost all of our soldiers here. So you can see really the only other people we have coming from outside is we have people coming from the New York National Guard. Those are all New Yorkers. And then also the 10th Mountain Band coming down from Fort Drum, New York. So as you can see, this is a New York-centric event. Again, no one's really coming from outside the state. And so it's a very small footprint at Bryant Park. We're going to focus on some of our partners, a little bit of NYPD, FDNY, very small family event table setups, DVS from New York City, parks, some kids' corners, face painting, balloon making. We're gonna have dog tag machines to make stuff for the kids. We have some reenactors that have all the period Army uniforms. They're all New York State educators. So this is the kind of group that we're building here. We're making this event that we want to bring our veterans and our families to, that integrates seamlessly with all the other events going on in Bryant Park. We only have really 8 large table setups, and then the bands. We're gonna have several bands performing that are an Army band, some of our city partner bands. And we're gonna just play music during really that 9 to 2 o'clock. We'll be done by 1:45, just to entertain the already lots of people that are in Bryant Park on a Saturday morning in June. And so that's kind of what we're doing. Briefly, if you go to the next slide, I just gonna show you kind of how we're just kind of integrating in the existing space. See, we're not taking up the general public seating. We'll be next to the art and on one side, and we'll have knitters on to our right. We have about eight different tents. You can see kind of our partners there. And then we'll be on the stage. We'll have programs going really from 9 till about 1:30 or so of several music performances, live bands, and then also the reenactors will come show all the period Army uniforms. And so I got really 2 more slides. They're really not that important. Just kind of show you our 2 partners, and which is NYPD and FDNY, which are just kid-friendly focused tents. What NYPD is our largest veterans association. They have a member from their Legion, and also a volunteer magician who's going to be doing just little magic tricks for the kids and families out there. On the next slide, we're going to teach some of the kids how to tie knots and ropes. And then a lot of these, we're all inviting our families. We have robots that they'll be able to drive from our EOD robots, camouflage face painting, and just little activities like that. They'll be able to try some MREs if they want. But just those are just some different events. I know there's some concerns about photos. We work for the federal government and for most of our people or for the city. We're not even allowed to publish photos of the people that we have that when they join the army. So all of our photos will be of us unless they sign like several waivers because we work for the same government that we all do. So really, at this point, I'd like to open it up for questions or any concerns that you may have.
Are there any, thank you very much, Rocky.
Yeah.
Thank you for the presentation, and for your service. So are there any questions from the committee about, this event? And Rocky, can you just remind us of what the hours are again?
Yeah,
No, I
so
just-
we're not allowed to set up till 8 o'clock. So that's when we'll start set up. We don't plan on having music going till 9 a.m. And really I know there's other events and we want to be very respectful to Bryant Park. One, to the other activities happening during the day, but also I know they have an afternoon concert, an evening concert. So we really want to be done and out of there by 1:45. Also, we're very good at cleaning up things. That's what we do for a living. So we promise not to leave any trash or anything behind. We know where the dumpsters are. So no later than 2 o'clock. We don't want there to be anything left in Bryant Park that'll have anyone know that we are there.
Great. Thank you for the clarification on the timing. Are there any other questions from members of the committee? Annie?
Yes, thank you so much. This looks really great. I just wanted to point out that there is a protest scheduled in that park that I saw on the 14th. It's set to begin at 2. So just
Yeah,
something that we
Yeah.
collectively should just have awareness that, given I know there's supposed to be nationwide protests across different cities on the 14th, that there might just be heightened populations and activities around. So I don't know what preparations.
from a
need to do,
crowd
but-
management perspective, we want to
Yeah.
make sure that Rocky may not be as much of a question for you as it is for Kelly, and sort of general crowd management at Bryant that day.
Yeah, well, we'll read the room. If we see people starting to come in, we'll just leave. I think what helps us out in this is that this is like kids with face paint.
Exactly. Yeah, I can't imagine that there's gonna be anything other than just like.
Right, there's not gonna be soldiers marching, and that's
No,
not
no,
what
no,
we're trying to do
no.
here.
Of
So, but if
course.
we see that, and I'll defer to Kelly, but if the crowds start coming earlier, we'll just walk away because nothing is worth confrontation, and I think just focusing on the families and the positive thing will there. But we'll be very cognizant of the environment. We'll defer to Kelly if at 1 o'clock it's time to go, we'll just start going. Because that's what's most important is that everyone enjoy the day in the park.
100%. Yeah, we just want to make sure that it was put on everyone's radar.
Thank you for that heads up. That's really helpful for us to know. We always try to keep an eye out for things like that to inform our security. So appreciate that.
Yeah.
Great. Michael Kback, I think I saw your hand up earlier.
You did. Nice noticing, but my question was answered. Thank you.
Are there any other questions from the committee? Okay. Are there any members of the public who would wish to comment on this topic? Okay, seeing none, I will now take this into business session. Does anyone from the committee feel that this is warranting a resolution, or do we feel that our questions have been answered? As a reminder, it's a non-commercial event and the size and scale has been sort of addressed. All right. Okay, thank you very much, Rocky. I hope you have a lovely celebration and that the kids have a great time.
Thank you. And Bryant Park's awesome. We use it all the time, but we don't normally look like this. And we just want to thank you for that.
Okay, all right, and now our next item on the agenda is the Bryant Park spring and summer programming, and I think it's is it your full annual programming? This is just your spring and summer?
Summer.
Okay, okay, so this is, you want to introduce yourself?
Fishman, Vice President of Public Events at Bryant Park.
And online, we have,
Oh, and I see you just the other day at
You
Bryant Park.
did, you
and we
sure
had a talk.
did. I waved at you.
Hi,
Um,
Libby. Irene Vianos, Vice President, Brand Partnerships and Events for Bryant Park. Fishman will be doing the main, hello again. Dan will be doing the main presentation. I'm just here in case there are questions.
Same. Kelly Collins, I think you all know me now. I work with Irene and Dan on brand partnerships and events.
you wanna share your screen, Kelly?
Sorry, guys, give me 1 second.
While we're pulling it up. So, again, we do, come here every year, to present our spring and summer programs. This will look very similar to what everyone in this room who's been here before has seen in past years, in terms of the scale and scope of the Bryant Park summer programming. Everything that we do, with the exception of maybe a ride on the carousel, is free and open to the public. And our goal is to welcome New Yorkers from throughout the city to have a wonderful, free, positive experience in Bryant Park. Next slide, Kelly. All right, so the first layer of programming during the summer in Bryant Park is what we call our daily amenities. So again, if you've walked through Bryant Park, you will have seen all of these. They're, the carousel, which we just talked about, and then a whole sort of family zone that we've developed here on the 40th Street Plaza, including a kids stage, a kids corner, and our games area. So again, free activities for families every single day of the week. We have our shuffleboard zone, which we built last year to great success, and our baton courts, which we've had for well over a decade now, and as well our ping pong, chess, reading room, park cart, and increasingly some fitness events on the Fifth Avenue Terrace on the other side of the library on a weekly or bi-weekly basis. So this is sort of the skeleton of our programming. If you come here to Bryant Park, you will see this going on between 11 a.m. and 7 p.m. every day. Next. So again, this is what we just discussed. The audience for these are about 10 to 50 people, depending on the time of day and the program. The goal is to keep, pockets of activity for New Yorkers, and a lot of these, let's say the art cart, on occasion will activate it with an instructor. So, at all times between 11 and 7, you can come, draw, have materials to do, your own art and craft activities. But then we'll do a special instruction for an hour where you might learn how to do sculpture or oil painting or any number of different artistic activities. And likewise, at our baton courts, we may have tournaments. We have ping pong tournaments that we organize as well. So on top of that, next slide, we layer classes and activities. So, everything from juggling lessons, which again, we do about 6 times a week, knitting classes where we provide free materials, reading room talks in our reading room, spelling bee, tai chi, yoga, etc. So these are, smaller scale classes that happen frequently. And again, with the goal of creating a vibrant experience for New Yorkers. Next. So then a little bit larger than that, what we would consider internally medium-sized events. So these are events for about 200 to 1,000 people. They typically happen not on the lawn, but on our plaza spaces. So the Fountain Terrace, the Upper Terrace, or other sort of flat paved spaces in the park. We have our American Symphony Orchestra Chamber Series. So musicians from the American Symphony Orchestra will come perform jazz or classical concerts. We have bingo, which I'll talk about later in the presentation. Our dance party series, which you see here, where you learn a certain style of dance, whether it's salsa or bhangra or tango. And then you have a live band so that you can practice those moves that you just learned. We have Shakespeare performances. We're working with the Public Theater this year and the New York Public Library to do their mobile unit on the Fifth Avenue Terrace. And of course, our yoga events on both the lawn and on the upper terrace. Next. And then we have our signature events. So these are the larger events on the lawn. Many of you are probably familiar with these. They include our picnic performances series, our free music theater and dance programming on the stage, our movie night series, Broadway and Bryant Park, and Square Dance, among some others. So these are larger programs. They're destination events. They tend to be on the lawn, and they happen a couple of times a week typically.
Come to yoga.
Yeah, yoga. I mean, yoga is in between medium and signature, if you want to think about it. But the smaller upper terrace events are typically around 200 people. And the lawn events are, 800, 900 people typically. So just zooming out, this is sort of the different layers. So you have amenities that happen every day. You layer on classes and activities, medium-sized events, and signature events. And that sort of is the formula that we use to try to keep the park feeling vibrant and active, while also leaving pockets of space for everyday use of the park. So in the next slide, you can see what a typical week in June looks like. So while there are a lot of things on this page, the goal is to layer in small activities at different times of the day that are in pockets of the park. So something can happen where you have a juggling lesson on the upper terrace, but it doesn't disrupt the rest of the park use. It's not loud, it's not requiring a large crowd. So you can see, we've color coded them here. The amenities and activities, everything in yellow or in purple, these are quite small in their scope. And then our signature medium events, again, are happening a couple times a week in terms of the signature events, and then a couple times in terms of the medium-sized events. And that's sort of how we, again, are able to frame the uses of the park so that they are, spread out and not, overbearing on the park use at any one time. Next. So that was sort of the overall way that we approach summer programming. So I know a lot of new faces here, so I wanted to get that background. And then here are some of the new or improved programming that we have this year. Again, not going through every single program that we have at Bryant Park. We have birding tours. They keep getting bigger and better. We did some, so what a birding tour is, we hire Gabriel Willow, who's from, I guess, formerly the Audubon Society, New York City Bird Alliance. He comes and leads tours where they look at birds, typically during migratory season. It's a very popular program and growing in popularity. We've been doing things called woodcock walks, where you see the American woodcocks that come every year to Bryant Park. There are very few places in the city where you can regularly see them. So birders are quite interested, and it's something we've been doing for years, but have had a lot of success. Next. Game socials. We're getting very good at game socials. So this is one example. This is our Mahjong socials. So we've been working with community members who play Mahjong regularly and have sort of Mahjong friend groups. And we've invited them to come to the park to work with us at our games area. And they've invited more of their friends. And what's happened is we've essentially created these informal, but now formal socials where you might have 50 to 100 people playing Mahjong, teaching people who've never played before. It's a great community building activity, and especially for seniors who tend to play this, it's very well loved. And that's just one example. We also have Settlers of Catan socials, or we try to work in different games throughout the week. Knitting. So knitting is a beloved program at Bryant Park. It happens weekly on Wednesdays. It's in partnership with Knitty City. The goal is to teach anyone who would like to learn how to knit. And we provide everything you would need. So we have several instructors who come. We have all the supplies, all the needles, all the yarn. We reserve tables, and it's, again, a community feel-good event where there's a lot of sort of people who are expert knitters or crocheters teaching people who are doing it for the first time. It's just an example of, again, the kinds of community that we're trying to build at the park. Next. So at the reading room, again, just to pick one of the amenities, this is the kind of activation you might see at any one place. We have obviously a reading room, which for us means we have carts of books that you can borrow for free. It's essentially a free library. And in order to activate that, we have literary events that happen on, sometimes during the day, sometimes in the evening. So talks with authors. During our Monday movie series, we do talks about movies called Real Talks. We do books on Broadway, nonfiction events in partnership with the New York Historical Society, poetry readings, etc. So again, just another example of the kinds of work that we're doing in the park. Camp Kids is an example of the family programming that we're doing. We constantly are thinking about families in the park and how we can better serve parents, especially in the area, many of whom just don't have many resources for free activities with their kids. So these have become very popular as well. So Camp Kids, you could bring scientists or puppeteers, or again, these are activities meant to be educational for kids and their families and their beloved. Next. Piano. So we have piano in Bryant Park, again, another tradition. Every single weekday, Monday through Friday, we have a different weekly resident pianist throughout the summer. So starting in late April until early October. And new this year on Thursdays, we're doing something special with each of them. Right, so sometimes we have sing-alongs. That's one of the an example of a Thursday activity we might do with a pianist. This is a tap along. Again, different ways to make it fun, interesting, inviting for the community. Next. We talked about bingo, but just what it looks like. Again, if you think of Bryant Park as New York's town square and as sort of a community center for the city of New York, bingo has become very popular. And again, people are coming from all throughout the city to come play bingo with us for free. Musical Chairs is happening as we speak. It's one of our favorite annual events. I'm actually sad to miss it. I don't think I've ever missed it before. But it is essentially exactly what you see here. There are typically about 800 people who play, each at circles of about 30 chairs. So you can think of 30 competitions to be the best of your circle. And then those 30 people then compete in a center circle to be crowned the Musical Chairs champion at Bryant Park. And then they win a prize. It's a one-of-a-kind event that I don't know if it happens anywhere else in the country. And we've been doing it for so long now that people come every year and look forward to it. Next. Painting performances. So something near and dear to my heart. We work with New York City cultural institutions, so Carnegie Hall, New York City Opera, the Town Hall, Jazzmobile. In the past, we've worked with Classical Theater of Harlem, Harlem Stage, Asian American Arts Alliance, so many others. The goal is to be the most comfortable and accessible place to see New York City's great performance. And so we do that 25 shows a year. We just had our opening night with Electric Root, where we did The Sound of Music, but with a gospel and jazz bent, and it was pretty fun. And this week we have 2 modern dance evenings, Lamone Dance Company, Ronald K. Brown, world-class contemporary dance for us. Next. Movie nights, I think everyone in this room must have some familiarity with. And we have 10 of those a year. Paramount Plus is the sponsor. And this is 32 years. It's really become a great New York tradition. And Broadway and Bryant Park, which is in partnership with iHeartMedia. They have been doing this in lunch times on Thursdays for again, I think this is the 25th year, if I'm not mistaken. And again, the idea is Broadway, as we all know, is so expensive. Let's find a way to bring Broadway talent out to New Yorkers for free in a way that they otherwise might not be able to experience this. And I think that's it. So again, just, I want to give folks a taste of how we approach programming, how we approach, balancing programming with daily park use, and sort of how we view ourselves and our role in New York City.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I know that members of this committee from our joint meeting with Landmarks 2 weeks ago, those who were in attendance there, and I think that we have another member of the Landmark committee with us who aren't on both committees also here, who I think will have some additional questions for you. So I will open it up to the floor for the committee to ask questions. Please keep your questions very specific. And sort of on topic. I want to make sure that everyone has the chance to ask questions and participate while still being mindful of everyone's time. And as just a reminder, some of the comments that have been raised previously regarding the summer programming and the 10-year lease at our prior meeting with Landmarks, or joint meeting, which is a longer horizon, not this 1 year sort of programming horizon. Some of those comments that had come up at the previous meeting had to do with the amount of programming happening. And this is the normal programming as opposed to activations, but they were requesting it at that meeting that I think we will be in partnership with you to follow up on regarding the financial impact and the footprint and foot traffic around each of those marketing activation events. But that is separate. Just want to make sure that everyone knows that is separate from the programming footprint that we were talking about here, which is also something to take into consideration. But just so members of the committee who weren't in that joint meeting, bringing everybody up to date. And so with that, if members of the committee have questions specific to the spring and summer programming of Bryant Park Corporation, please acknowledge in the room. But I see BJ online. We would like to ask a question of Bryant Park Corporation on their spring and summer programming.
Yep, thanks. Great presentation, and love the park. And, again, I, like many of you, my favorite is the movie night and the picnic performances. My question has to do with sanitation. Often, especially after the movie night or picnic, the garbage cans are just overflowing. There isn't enough, and it's just
You may have muted yourself, BJ.
Oh.
all this time. And I was saying that how I enjoyed all the summer program and go often. My question is has to do with sanitation. After especially the picnic performance or the movie night, the garbage cans, there aren't that many, and every one of them are overflowing. So people tend to just drop it around the periphery, and it just looks very messy. And so I was wondering, like Bank of America is a sponsor for the picnic in the park, and Paramount is the partner for your movie nights. Do they pay for the security guards and the sanitation, or is that part of the park? But ultimately, I think there has to be more of the sanitation receptacles around. Then the second thing is, I've been I've gone for like probably 20 years for the movies at the park, and lately I've just noticed, even last year, the year before, I don't know if they're considered security guards or who these gentlemen are that are leading. First of all, they're pretty rough in interacting with the crowd, right? Either mean or just rough and yelling at people instead of just saying directing, go this or that. So I was wondering, those two, one is sanitation. How do you anticipate addressing that, especially with thousands of people coming to these large events? And then secondly, the security guards or these gentlemen who direct traffic and tell people where to go, is that a firm that you hire? Is that managed by Bryant Park, or is that through the companies that are paying or for these activations?
Sure, I'm happy to address all those. So first, thank you for being, a fan of our programming, especially movie nights. That's so great to hear. I'm sorry to hear about a bad experience with security officers. I mean, that's something we really aim not to have at Bryant Park. We want to have a great customer experience for everyone. We did actually switch a couple of years ago. I think it was 2 years ago, or last year and this year, to working with only our security officers in the park. We think provide a better customer service. So I don't know when you had that bad experience, but I'm hoping it's before we made that change, because we decided to bring in our own security officers even on overtime because we thought that it provided a better public experience. They just had more familiarity with the park. They had a better customer service attitude than some of the security officers that we had before. So we did actually recognize that was a problem as well, and have tried to improve it, but I hope that it's still not a problem. Because that's
But
not-
actually, it was last year, a couple of times last year, and it was exactly on the entrance by the 40th Street entrance and 6th Avenue, right by the carousel.
Okay,
The
well, I'm
same
so sorry.
guy, yeah, the same guy was just rude, yelling at people, and being mean and, like, and pointing, and it was, yeah, just really distracted from the experience, but yeah.
Okay, I'm so sorry about that. Yeah, we don't want that to happen, so I'll definitely give that feedback to the team and our officers. And then to the sanitation question, yes, we provide our own sanitation services in the park in general, but also at events. We also bring those sanitation supervisors and the actual staff on overtime to make sure that we have a perfectly clean park after every event. And there is a lot of trash after every event. I'm there and I agree. And we do add more receptacles every year to try to contain that better. But if you come the next morning, it is clean. We really pride ourselves on that, that we're not, creating a long-term trash problem for the park with these events.
Okay, thank you for your question, BJ. Is there anyone else, any other members of the committee that have any questions for Bryant Park about the programming? Any part of programming? Okay, Michael Kavak.
I have questions and comments. Can I make both at
Questions
this time?
first, and then we're gonna come back to
Comments.
comments. So just questions first.
Question. The Wednesday knitting, what time is that?
Typically, this is a great challenge for me. This is usually at 1:30.
So
Like many
fast.
programs, it's 1:30 to 3 o'clock.
Okay, now, Monday is movie talk at the book area.
Correct, usually between 12:30 and 1:30.
So that competes with the piano.
It does, but they don't compete because they're in separate areas of the park at a very.
It does, because I like to go to both of them, so it does.
That's a good problem.
It's
All right, now let's see more questions. Oh yeah, did you know, the question, that yesterday on New York One Bingo was featured at?
I did.
Yeah.
New York One is a great advocate of
Yeah.
ours.
And did you know, this way I can eliminate my comments later, what the first movie ever 32 years ago that I was at?
The one
Was-
that you were at or the first one?
The first, it was the same thing. I
don't
was at the
think- I don't
first
think
one.
I know. I wasn't here.
Would you like to know?
I would, please.
Two questions in one. Would you like to know? Breakfast at Tiffany's.
Ah.
And they gave out Crackerjack box because Holly Golightly got her ring
Yeah.
from George Pepper
Yes.
out of and they took it to be engraved over at.
Yeah.
Those are my questions and comments that I snuck in as questions.
I actually.
Well done.
Combination, the 2-in-1, Michael Kavak, I really appreciate that.
That's what
I
I do.
appreciate that. Thank you.
Tom Ricardo.
I just, a question on the booths,
Okay.
the first, is that like part of the seasonal, like, how do you guys like manage the
Do
booths?
you mean the makers market or do you mean the kiosk in the park?
The makers market, is that what it's, once again, I don't, so first question, what is that called? Is that the makers market, like?
I'm not 100% sure I'm clear what you're asking.
Yeah,
but
perfect.
there is the makers market, so that is something that is ended for the season. It's tents in the park, where the makers, local businesses, come in tents. It's organized by Urban Space, which we've spoken about before. That happens on several weekends, that ended again this past weekend.
Oh, so this weekend was like the last weekend?
Correct.
No,
And
because I
that's
was,
happened each spring, in a pretty similar scope. Where again, vendors pop up in booths. The idea is, again, they're all small businesses with crafts. And typically it's focused on weekends.
and it's,
And again, the park is very involved in making sure it's a positive experience for the public, but it's not our event. It's really Urban Space's event that we host.
oh,
So we don't consider it part of our summer programming, but, and I wouldn't talk about it at this meeting, but,
oh, okay, no,
happy to answer.
because it was this weekend, I was kind of saw it, and I
Yeah,
didn't know this weekend was the.
and I'm happy to answer any questions.
So, no, I was curious, like, how you choose the vendors and stuff like that,
So Urban Space chooses the vendors. So we're not as involved
So
with.
it's basically you give space in the spring to urban space to host these vendors and.
Dan, I can speak a little bit to how Makers works. So in order to sell anything in a public park, you need to have a concession license. So our small kiosks that sell coffee, the restaurant, all of them are selected through an RFP process. So I believe it was back when we were trying to recover from the pandemic, we were looking for a springtime activity that would fill the gap before our spring programming and summer programming, which Dan just presented. Something that would fill the gap there that would, it's nice weather, it's still a little chilly. How do we bring people into the park? And Urban Space won that RFP. They proposed this spring pop-up market. As Dan mentioned, they're all artists and crafts people. Everything's very temporary, pops up for a couple of days and then it goes away. And I believe it's for 4 weekends in May.
Questions only come because my sister was around this weekend. She was asking me, I was like, I have no clue, but.
Yeah.
I haven't
Yeah.
asked them.
This was,
Thanks, Tom.
we just had the last weekend of it.
Okay, that's the final one for the spring,
Yes.
Correct.
until they come back for the Christmas market and.
Correct. But that's a very different.
Yes, and that is the one that we are going to have everyone in for at our next meeting to make sure that we are reviewing the fire safety plan.
Yes,
Well,
and end of June, we're coming back to present. Well, Urban Space will present, we'll come to support them.
yes, and it'll be hopefully a interdisciplinary meeting. Okay, once again, more questions from the committee for Bryant Park on this summer programming, Myrtle.
Well, thank you for the presentation. Very, very informative, helpful. Couple of questions, actually, one of which, because of what you just pointed out, that Urban Space is responsible for organizing the Makers Market, and also for the Winters Market. Now, what's the deal there in the sense that, so now you have a contract with Urban Space for how many days a year? Are they in the park? What kind of space are they taking up? And is it ever going to be reviewed, or is it, how long does this?
The Makers Market is separate, as I mentioned, from the holiday market. And we do an RFP, and then the license is usually given for 2 to 3 seasons of that project, and then we have to do an RFP again. But I believe that the Urban Space has come and presented to you on Makers Market every year. Every year they've come and presented. Yes.
I don't remember them presenting to us last year, but I might have missed it. So, I mean, just on that, so Urban Space now has a contract for, you said, 2 to 3 years?
Correct.
So their contract should be coming to a close. You said it started at the pandemic, or is it the second time?
No, I believe this we've gone through a second RFP. We're on a second second. Yeah.
Do you know
I'm
when
sorry. Off the top of my head, I don't. This might be the first year of a 2-year agreement.
We can get back to that.
Okay.
Yeah, we can get back to you with that.
And then my second question is, I mean, the calendar that you put up was very interesting, informative. It does not include stuff like the Makers Market, but if you were to put together a calendar that includes all the activities in the park and not just the activities that are part of the summer program, the non-commercial activities that are part of the summer programming, which all I see here is non-commercial activity, but I know there's a fair amount of commercial activity that goes on in the park as well. Is it possible to also then associate with each of those boxes the amount of the percentage of the park that each of those events takes up? That will give us a good idea of how intensively the park is being used for programming.
Sure. I mean, that's what I tried to do here, just broadly.
Right.
That was my goal with that, is to try to give you a sense of the scope of the event. So the signature events are on the lawn, the lawn and gravel and upper terrace, and to some degree the LAs, are impacted, maybe the fountain terrace, depending on the event. So these are the larger events that have more of a park-wide impact. And again,
And those are the green ones.
in green,
Just,
sorry.
yes, those are the ones shown in green.
But, you know, it has a park-wide impact, but only for the, you know, period of hours that the event takes place. So if you came Monday midday, you wouldn't feel a park-wide impact of movie nights. You know, again, same with picnic performances, you know, again, the on-stage performance with the lawn and, you know, everything else associated happens in the evenings. But if you came Friday morning, you would see a passive park for the most part. So again, that was the hope with this. And again, you're right, it doesn't show everything in the park. We don't always know. I call this a typical June week because yes, you know, maybe one activation might happen in a given week. You know, again, a commercial activation is not happening with the frequency of any of these permitting. You know, there'll be.
okay, it's
Feel
on
free,
YouTube.
I'll send this presentation. Ally, can you put it back?
Like, it's also on their website.
Yeah, we can.
We
do
made
like-
this for you, but also can share all.
It'd be great if
any
you could
information.
share that, also the footprint.
And
as we-
including the commercial activity. So for example, if there is, you know, something like a maker's market that goes on every day of the week for a whole month, you know, whatever, programs
makers-
a day or whatever, if that's on there, that's.
Sure.
Yeah.
But just to remind you that we did the Makers Market before our spring programming starts.
No,
So
I understand.
there
This is
isn't any overlap. Yeah.
Not just specific to the spring and summer programming, and we're through spring, we're looking at this now, but more broadly, you know, just to get a handle on the intensity of programming within the park.
Sure.
That's what we're trying to get a handle
So
on.
I
I
would
hope you
just
understand.
to talk about other things that happen during the year. So there may be, you know, one-off activations do happen and we come to you and, you know, those will typically be for a period of hours on a given day and typically are not multiple times in a given week, right? So there might be a screening, there might be, you know, something with the US Army, et cetera. Those might layer on to what happens in a given week, but again, they're not usually more than once a week and likely not every week. So, you know, again, that doesn't necessarily, those do get layered on, but they're not sort of changing the typical week in Brantford.
I do think that it would be helpful, given sort of the larger context of this conversation, if I appreciate seeing the jugglers on that calendar for all of the days that I've heard so much about being deployed to problem corners. I know it's part of your sort of overall strategy of activating parts of the park and solving issues before they happen. But a lot of the feedback that we've been getting is a little bit of Bryant Park. Everyone appreciates the programming, really respects what's happened. So much of the programming is very wholesome. The musical chairs is quite lovely. But I think the real question that many members of the committee have that we're trying to get at is, have you considered, I think it would be helpful for us to have that calendar, if you could share that with us so that we have like an actual visual representation of time and distribution and percentages broken down. Because
Can you
we've heard
pull up
some
that?
feedback around, have you considered maybe like limiting a little bit of the time that there is stuff happening and it's a little bit more just passive park, you can just sit and enjoy some plants and fresh air, and there isn't sort of commotion happening around
So,
or people coming
again-
through, so it is midtown, but it feels so busy.
This is passive.
Yeah.
This is what?
This is passive.
Passive.
By our definition, like there are pockets of activity,
Passive.
but if you come here between 6 a.m., you know, 6 p.m. and 7 a.m., you have a very traditional Bryant Park experience. You know, again, something may be happening in one corner of the park, but the whole of the park is not closed off at the expense of passive use. So our goal is to, and I take this very dearly. You know, even when we're setting up for a large movie night, our goal is to have lunchtime available on the gravel for people to be able to eat at tables. Like, we really try as much as possible to limit the impact of these events on general public use of the park, because our job is to be stewards of the park. And the events are additive, we feel, to that use of the park, especially for those who come from all throughout the city to enjoy them. But they're not at the expense of general park use. So that's why I did this, is to try to give a sense of when there are real big uses of the park. And again, movies, yoga, picnics are really the main examples during the summer, with the exception of the occasional commercial activation. And, you know, maybe Makers Market in the spring. That, you know, have a larger park impact. And even with those programs, our goal is to try to make sure that they're not overwhelming to the fun, or not causing, you know, sanitation problems for the park or in line with, you know, good maintenance of the park.
Yeah, I think we appreciate that information. I see, David Shapiro, you've had your hand raised. But again, if we can keep all of our comments really specific to this, even though we are also
Sure.
talking about your impact, that would be very helpful, just to be mindful of time.
Sure. Do you have like a percentage of what time, what percentage of the park there's no events, that the park is open to the public?
No events at all. How are you defining it?
Yeah, nothing. No. When folks cannot sort of enter the green space and kind of go wherever they want. I mean, the park is closed at night, right?
Yeah, the park's closed at night. Again, what I was just trying to show in person, maybe it didn't do that well on screen, but you know, again, the vast majority of the time, the park is open for general use. And even during these events, like a picnic or a movie, there are people who hang out in the LAs or the upper terrace, et cetera, having dinner or talk to each other. They're not so loud that you can't do that. So really, I mean, I can't think of a time that I mean, none of these are private events where you have to.
Can I just clarify?
Can I say all the gray is non-event time?
That's what I was gonna say, Kelly. Thank you.
Yeah.
So David, all the spaces that you see are times when I'm in the park acting like I'm the only one there. And it feels like I'm not in a
Right.
big city. Those are the spaces in which there's no programming. So people are just out in the park.
And I want to reiterate that even when there is an activity or an amenity, it doesn't mean that it feels like the park is being used for overwhelming.
Like it is on movie
In its
night.
entirety.
It doesn't feel,
Correct.
even on movie night, you know, I apologize.
Any more than, let's say, if you're in Washington Square Park and people were playing chess in the corner, you don't feel that that's taking over the park.
Yeah. Do you, a quick question. So, you know, from the annual report that you have, the park activities, which you guys put on, which everybody loves, of course, you know, it seems to cost roughly around $4 or $5 million. The park takes in 30. Do you guys have a set like a detailed financials? I see that there's really kind of no detailed information about the Winter Village and how those expenses are actually incurred.
That's a very wide question, but I'm happy to try to answer. You're right that it's about $4 or $5 million that we spend on free public programming, which is tremendous, I think. Much of that 30 million in revenue has costs associated. So, you know, the costs for putting together Winter Village, salaries for all the security, sanitation, all the services that we do. And yeah, our annual report is I think pretty detailed.
Yeah, and as are the 990s.
All the information is publicly available, and I'm happy to sort of walk.
Yeah, I
through
mean,
it.
it doesn't show any detail about the expenses, and I'm just curious as to kind of where those expenses are going, because if the winter markets, you know, takes in 18 million of revenue and there's a $12 million cost to that, and there's no real detail, you know, it's kind of curious, and I wonder kind of, is there other places that money is going? Because $30 million is quite a lot of money. You know, especially when we have other parks.
That with the budget, if Bryant Park, if you would, I think we have it, I think the office has it. That might have it, but
I'm
like
happy to
the-
go over
if
it
we
line
wanna-
by line.
I think we wanna set up that.
It's
that'd be great.
not.
I think also just the follow-up too from the setup of sort of, if we could have that overlay and a breakdown, sort of like in a chart of percentage of usage, time-wise and the footprint, and sort of like what proportion of like a lunchtime is sort of casual and rain open and sort of that passive park space. But if you could have like a chart
The
with
only-
percentages, that would be like a helpful follow-up.
It would be very complicated to put together. So this is my best attempt to show you at a glance. So every week is different. Every event is different. Each would have a different percentage, and we could do our best to sort of put something together. But you know, other than Broadway and Bryant Park, which happens during lunchtime and is a signature event that happens in July or Thursdays, with the exception of Broadway and Bryant Park, there are no lunchtimes where we do large events, because our goal with lunchtime is to have it be opened for the common Midtown office and other use of lunchtime. We intentionally avoid scheduling large activities during lunch for that reason. Broadway and Bryant Park has been going on for 25 years.
What's the
They-
Broadway, Bryant Park? Say that slow. It doesn't.
Broadway and Bryant Park.
Broadway, thank you.
And it couldn't happen during the evenings because there are performances. But in general, there are 0 lunchtimes where you would have extensive.
I understand that. I think that just based on some of the public comments that we've been getting in a lot of these forums and context with like the size and scope of the commercial activity that's happening simultaneously, that
That's right.
because it gets overlaid because of the size of some of these movie events, I think that we can try to offline about this too, to try to get some different answers. Maybe Kelly and I can work with that on a Google Calendar exported to a spreadsheet or something, and we can kind of back in on that.
More
but-
specifically to commercial activity happening within the park. That is what the real concern is.
Yeah, I think that
I
even
understand.
the combination of that and
So,
sort of
I mean,
the programming
I don't wanna-
combined ends up being a little bit suffocating.
And my other one quick other question is just like the like, does like Urban Space have other contracts with, you know, Biederman Ventures or, you know, other, I just don't understand the conflict and how the conflicts process works. Because it seems like there's a lot of overlay and there's a lot of money that's being coming through. So, you know, in the last conversation you had at the landmarks meeting, it doesn't seem like there's a conflict.
Urban Space does not have any contracts with Biederman, as far as I know, but they do have a lot of contracts with the Parks Department. So they run markets in Union Square, Columbus Circle, lots of other park
And we're gonna
lands.
be seeing them
But
for
you
some of
don't-
our programming. So I just, please wait to be recognized by the chair. I want to make sure that we're really being mindful of time. I think we're going a little bit in circles here. If we can have the follow-up on that information. I want to make sure that we've got time to get to members of the public here. But I think those are sort of our takeaways, is that sort of the overall impact of ability to be in a passive park is sort of our concern. And
Understand.
it's the sort of the layering of that with the commercialization simultaneously, and sort of how the sprawl of some of those events can feel, even for the ones that are public and amazing and we love. I think it's the combination of that with the commercialization that can then fund some of the public ones. It feels big for that space. And so that's just some of the information that we've been getting back. So it's sort of the consideration of just figuring out a little bit more of those metrics. Just have a better sense of what we're hearing, and maybe there's some ways around that, I think would be helpful. But I do want to move to public comment.
I do have,
Do you have another question?
I want to make a comment.
Okay, we will get to comments when we get to
Sure.
Write it down so you remember.
our deliberations.
Okay.
Can it wait until our deliberations?
It's relevant now, but it can wait. I respect the chair's decision. It's okay.
Okay, very, very quickly.
Yeah, quickly. I just want to remind us that as we're taking on the new terrain to ask about the public-private partnership and some of the relationships, that while Bryant Park is the steward of the space, they have their own board, they present financials, and you can make inquiry with their board about your specific questions. Some of these are way beyond the scope of what we would consider. What we're seeing is the need for metrics so that we can better understand the flow in the park. And we want to see a little more transparency with some of the activations. But other than that, I think some of this is way beyond the scope of what we focus on in these meetings and what we review. Thank you.
Okay, is it a relevant question, Tom?
We're in comment, right?
Yes, we're in comments, but questions, comments.
Oh,
Yeah, that's the public session, but.
all I was to say is, appreciative of I'm personally, I think, appreciative of the events as someone, as a parent, and, I just kind of want to refocus this on what we were talking about tonight and stuff like that. That said, I'm a little disappointed you haven't fully memorized the schedule.
I know a lot. I'm happy to be clear.
I'm impressed.
Because we're very detail oriented here, as you see. But is this on the website? I am so sorry.
Everything here is on the
I just, so that I could find that, I don't know
Oh,
where.
this, I mean, I made this just for you.
Oh, okay.
For to share it.
That was kind of what I was going for. That's it.
It's on the website.
Yeah,
so
because
it's the whole thing.
if there's a way for us to export some of that data to then layer
And
it
again,
on, I think that.
there's a lot at Bryant Park. If you ever have follow-up questions, I'm
Yeah, I
available.
think that would.
But you'll have the
I think that
schedule
would be
memorized,
helpful
right?
for,
I know a lot of.
we appreciate you being able to answer, and I've got to meet these jugglers.
Thank you.
Okay, moving into public comment, Charles Nye, we will promote you to speaker, you can speak please keep it to the topic at hand.
Yeah, that's.
In the interest of time, thank you. Oh,
Go ahead, Charles.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Thank you, sorry. Yeah, when you switch to panelists, it actually takes you out of Zoom and brings you back in. Sorry about the delay there. So I was just wondering with these summer programs, what improvements to accessibility has Bryant Park worked on? And have you guys ever thought of having an inclusivity committee like the Times Square Alliance has of various people with disabilities who use Times Square, for example? Maybe something similar could be done for Bryant Park. Maybe you guys could reach out to Tom Harris over there. Is that something you guys might be receptive to? Thank you.
Thank you, Charles. Yeah, we pride ourselves on being as accessible as possible. All of our staff are trained to try to help, in all ways that we can, to make, again, the events as accessible as we can. We've added EDA seating for authentic performances because we heard that was a concern. So there's reserved seating in the front, which again, if you need those seats, we'll provide them for you. We have staff trained to help you get to those seats. We're using as much of the best practices as we can. But yes, inclusivity committee, that's an interesting idea. I don't know if that's something we've considered. So thank you, Charles.
we can definitely offline with you a little bit about that too. I'm certainly curious about follow-up regarding accessibility. I think a lot of members of our committee are. Okay, are there any other?
Actually, can I just ask, have you guys done anything about live transcripts that we were talking about with the Union Square folks?
So say it again.
The live transcript.
Transcript.
Of the comedy.
So movies, we have captions. We've been doing that for years, and it's actually something we worked with the mayor's office for accessibility on.
Are you familiar with something for live speakers or?
They exist. They tend to be cost prohibitive.
Oh, they do.
But
Okay.
it is possible to do. We are doing it for one of the events with Mobile Unit. Because Public Theater had resources to help provide that. But for the scope of what we're doing, it's cost prohibitive.
Okay, other members of the public who are in the room who would like to have a public comment? Thank you, Charles Nye.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Jonathan Barron. I'm a member of this community. I live at West 28th and 7th Avenue in the Keel Tower. And Dan, two comments very briefly. One, I would just like to acknowledge you and your corporation. I'm touched, moved, and inspired by all the activities going on there in Bryant Park. Just amazing. I think it's world class, and I'm sure any city in the world would just be in awe of what you all create there. And secondly, as we all know that there has been a murder in Washington, D.C., a Palestinian a movement, radical. And then on Sunday night, also, it's possible that there is a trend that's being identified by police, and that there's a new kind of terrorism where they murder or do what they do, and then they stay behind as martyrs. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I'm so glad that you appreciate our programming. And yes, our security team is very aware of recent incidents, and it's something that we take very seriously.
Thank you for your comment. Is there anyone else from the public who would like to make a statement on spring summer programming? Okay, seeing none, I will move us into the business session. Does the committee feel that we generally feeling pretty good about the summer programming with those follow-up items? Okay.
Yeah.
Great. If it's not a activation, we don't need to do a resolution. Again, really appreciate your.
They don't get the right words up there. Libby, you talk really fast, and this can't hear you so good either. But when I'm
No,
trying to read that
I'm
or
actually-
listening to you, I can't hear you. I got the hearing aids turned up full blast here. And it's not saying your words because you're mumbling and you're talking over yourself.
Michael K. Back, I will do better.
Try to be like a tour guide, speak slowly and.
And project. I will work on projecting. Perhaps there can be a Broadway programming for that too.
Don't be afraid.
Okay. So moving on to our next item on our agenda.
Damn.
If there is no
Damn. Could you make sure? As you know, and
That's
sure, of course. As an individual, not as a. Sure, no problem.
You don't have to stay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for coming and presenting. We really appreciate that. I think that we will. Todd, did you have a comment in our business session on Brian Park?
Yes, you'll have to forgive me. I'm like fading in and out, I'm in transit. I just want to say
What's your comment, Todd?
very quickly, I support the Bryant Park programs. They're amazing. The one thing I thought I heard, which I want to lend my support to, is the ratio between the events and the regular space of the park. As Catherine said, where there's nothing going on except the enjoyment of the larger park. I would urge I would urge them, if they can come up with some kind of metric. The schedule is very useful, but what would really be useful is some sort of metric that we can look at over an extended period of time that shows public, the use versus the events. That's it.
Thank
right?
you.
And then we could look at it over time.
We're gonna offline about that. You might have missed that part, but we will definitely follow up and get those metrics.
Did anybody hear that?
Yes, we all heard you, Todd. We got you.
I'm good. Okay.
Thank you. Okay, next item on our agenda. Thank you very, very much for coming, Bryant Park, Ellie. And we will be in touch. Okay, so the next item on our agenda is an update from Madison Square Park Conservancy on their summer programming and conservancy news. I would like to welcome Christine, who is our new community liaison for Madison Square Park partnership or conservancy. Am I right in that title, Christine? Sorry if it is, I am giving you the wrong title.
Hi, yeah, I am Christine. I am working to manage the public programs at Madison Square Park Conservancy. We are hiring another person who is going to be starting with us next week, who will serve as a more primary liaison with you all. But we did want to make sure we got you our summer programming ahead of that. So that's why you get me this time. So I'm really excited to meet you all, and thank you so much for listening to me.
Welcome to the fun committee.
Great. I do have a couple of slides that I can share if there's nothing else, but give me 1 second. All right.
Thank you.
Are you all able to see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. So hopefully you've been able to experience the park in the past couple of weeks, but we do have a wonderful installation that are on 2 of our smaller lawns, Redbud and Sparrow. And those are installations done by an artist called Lily Kwong, who is a horticulture artist. We're really excited to host these installations over the summer. One is focused on children and offering a place for learning and play. It is this sort of red stage in the middle of these spirals. There's also these sort of like blue sort of fixtures that kids are able to play on, as well as a library which has some free books for folks to borrow, read, experience, and then return. The second lawn on Redbud is a more adult-focused programming space. It is a meditation garden, and it is focused right now in a labyrinth or spiral. So the idea around that installation is folks can enter the space, experience some tranquility, and wander through at their own pace. There is a downloadable meditation that goes along with that installation there's a QR code you can scan. You can listen to it as you experience the garden, and hopefully find some peace and tranquility in our busy city. Around this installation, we're really excited to be offering a sort of robust calendar of free and public workshops. These are kind of open to all ages, but some are more focused on sort of children or younger folks. Most of these, with the exception of our June 14th morning meditation and our July 12th guided meditation, are all hosted on Sparrow Lawn, where there's the stage and sort of containing that in small sort of presentation style workshops. We start those this week with an artist walk with Lily herself. That's most of these are very small imprint. They're 20 to 30 people. Lily will be walking two groups through both installations and just telling folks about the inspiration and how she hopes folks are going to experience them. On June 11th, we're hosting a workshop on making your own seed bombs. These are focused on wildflowers, and it's just going to be a workshop for children and as well as adults, if they're open to joining us, about creating seed packets to take home with them. Lily is also looking to invite a panel of other horticulture artists to talk about ecology and urban development on the 12th. That will be hosted on Sparrow Lawn as well. We're expecting about 20 to 40 people to attend that. And then meditation and manifestation hosted on Redbud Lawn. We have comedian story time that is about an hour long, a couple of different comedians reading some favorite kids books. We are able to host a crowd of up to about 80 to 100 kids for that. Other workshops we have coming up are make your own rain sticks, block printing with vegetables, building solitary bee homes. We also are doing a workshop on seed saving, seeding dreams and manifestation, which is a sort of creative writing exercise workshop, leaf tapping and printmaking, which is sort of dyeing fabrics and textiles, and cyanotyping as well. We wrap up sort of this programming with a horticulture panel, which is going to be led by our horticulture team at the park to really speak on urban spaces and how we make them accessible and open and like bring our community sort of together through horticultural plants and the experience in the park. All of these programs are focused around this installation. Lily is very involved in helping sort of curate these experiences, and we're really excited to offer them to the community in New York as a whole. Beyond that, we are looking at a few other sort of events from our recurring tours, which we offer monthly at this point. We have a garden tour on the second Tuesday of every month hosted by our horticulture team, which is just a guided walk at the current botanical collection that is in season. And so that changes every month depending on what's in bloom. Our executive director, Holly Light, has also been offering history tours on the third Tuesday of each month. And that just mostly focuses on the history of the neighborhood as well as some of the monuments that are in the park. And those last, both the garden tours and the history tours last about an hour, and we tend to host about 20 to 30 folks in each of those. We have a couple of other sort of larger programming scheduled on the docket for the summer. This next weekend, we have a Plein Air Festival, which is a festival celebrating outdoor drawing. We are inviting folks to just experience the park and from the perspective of an artist. Folks are bringing their own supplies to either sketch or paint the architecture, the flowers, the trees, whatever they can see in the park. We're expecting between about 50 and 75 people to participate throughout the day. It is a day-long experience, but not everybody will really stay for the entire part. The Carnegie Hall citywide concerts, which have been a part of the parks programming for the past couple of years, are slated to come back. We have those scheduled for the 9th, 16th, and 23rd of July. We are excited to be looking at 2 string quartets and 1 guitar duo for those dates. So bringing back the music on our oval lawn should be very exciting to activate the summer programming. And then finally, I believe we've already discussed this in a previous meeting, or a colleague of mine presented on Nomad Jazz Festival, which is slated for August 9th and 10th, activating the park with some world-class jazz music and bringing that as a free and public program for the neighborhood and the city.
Thank you so much, Christine. Do any members of the committee have any questions? Michael Gaybeck.
Christine, Tully, do you have a map of the park layout, please, and show me where Red Bug and Sparrow lawns are, because I'm familiar with them. They're new.
Yeah, let me see what I can pull up quickly. So
While
Sparrow.
you're doing that, I have another question.
Mhm.
Can you handle 2 at once? I can.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, when is Holly Lit's the tours, weekly tours, date and time? Wednesdays, you said, or Thursdays at a time?
Yeah, it's the 3rd Tuesday of every month. And our next one in June, I believe she's doing a 10 a.m. one. We try to rotate those at different hours, just depending on the weather. It gets a little hot during the summer, so we go earlier or late, as well as to give sort of folks an opportunity to like.
The 17th, which is the 3rd Tuesday of June, correct? 10 a.m.
Yes, that is correct.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions from the committee?
She didn't show me how the Red Bug and the Sparrow.
Yeah, it was there because it's in like where the old dog run was, the temporary dog run when we were doing the fix.
Christine, do you not have a map to show us?
Can you describe where the Sparrow, where this is happening? Like geographically in a map of the park. Can you describe it for us if we don't have a map?
Yeah, can y'all see this now?
Yes. Yeah.
Great. So Sparrow is over here right by the playground, sort of in between the playground and the oval lawn. So that is where the kids garden is right now, and where most of this proposed programming will be happening. And then sort of directly across from it on Redbud is where the meditation garden is located.
So sort of the upper third of the park, and then on the east side, and then on the west side.
I got it.
For those who are listening at home. Great. Todd Shapiro, you've got a question.
Are we in comments yet or still in questions?
We are in questions.
Oh, I'll wait till comments.
Does anybody else have a question? Or not?
Might as well ask this. So the place where the syringe was found within Madison Square Park, have you noticed any other activity in that part of the park? Something that might concern you? I believe it was on what was it? It was on 25th Street, under the bench on 5th Avenue, next to 25th Street entrance.
There our operations team does a really good job at documenting those types of cases. From what I've seen, that isn't something that we're particularly concerned about. I think there is, they are very much always eyes and ears on the ground and watching what is going on. But at this point, I haven't heard any cause for concern, but I'm happy to check in and report back.
Thank you.
Madam Chairman, can I make a comment? Are we in comments
Not in
now?
comments yet, we are in.
Later, we're gonna be in
But
comments?
just wait for just a moment. Are there any other questions? Okay. Are there any comments from members of the committee? Michael Kavak.
I just wanted to mention, as a frequent user of the park, that normally on the benches along Fifth Avenue, 23rd Street, and Madison Avenue, on those benches, there are homeless people living. They tend to use a syringe once in a while, so I'm not surprised that we found one there, that it was found there. I am surprised that there was only one, so that's a good thing.
Okay, thank you for your comment. Todd. Schmidt.
Okay, are we in comments yet?
Comments. All you.
I think I
All
heard
hear you.
comments. Hello?
Yeah,
Todd
Todd,
Shapiro.
you can say your comment now.
Okay, I just want to say that I've been to the renewal installations, both the children's and the meditation. And I want to express my commendation to the Conservancy, because that's my idea of an installation that is to scale. It doesn't interrupt the enjoyment of the park for the vast majority of the users. It's a relatively modest section of the park. It's wonderful. I've been in both of those sections on numerous occasions, and that the fact that they have these other events that are tied to it is just wonderful. So we certainly give our fair share of criticism. So I want to commend them. And going back to what we said about the Bryant Square Park, keeping things in scale, small whenever possible, and tying it out in the public interest, I give them the highest commendation.
Thank you, Todd. Okay. Are there any members of the public who would like to?
Oh, I was,
Did you? You didn't have your hand raised. Okay.
I was rubbing my beard. I apologize.
Would you like to make a comment?
Yeah, just briefly, two things. One is, thank you for having children programming in the park. Your playground's awesome. So but adding that too. And then second, my beagle spent a good 45 minutes investigating the whole park. He did not find any needles, but he did sniff every blade of grass. So there was nothing that could have been hidden. He definitely made sure, and I'll make sure he continues that, but I appreciate the efforts of the park to stick up with that. Thank you very much.
Okay, are there any other comments from the committee? Okay, going to comments from the public. Charles Nye, you are recognized.
Go ahead, Charles.
Gotta
Sorry,
unmute
hear me
yourself.
now. Sorry, yeah,
Yes.
thank you. I just want to ask if there was any more information on the silent disco that was in talks about to celebrate the ADA Act, Americans with Disabilities Act, and I just want to quickly say I'm a little bit insulted as someone who used to be homeless. Not all homeless people use needles. Actually, there's people in my building who unfortunately are drug addicts and do use needles, and they're not homeless. So I just wanted to make that point. Thank you very much.
Sorry about that, Charlie.
Thank you for your comment. Is there anyone else from the public who would like to make a comment? Yeah, in person. Would you like to comment?
Yes, good evening, everyone. Once again, my name is Jonathan Barron, and a resident of, Community Board, I'm Community 5. I want to acknowledge you. This park is the most elegant park in all of the city of New York. And I want to thank you again so much for service you provide. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comment. Is there anyone else from the public who would like to comment? All right, seeing none, I will take us into business session for the committee. Is there anybody who has any feelings about this program?
Sounds great.
Positive.
Wow,
Yeah.
cool.
They were thorough presentations.
Thank you very much, Christine. It's great to have you here and great to hear about all of the soothing programming that you have going on. Love plants here on the Parks Committee, so love that you're bringing them to the public in a bigger way. Okay, that concludes our scheduled agenda for the night, which brings us into new business. Does anybody have any new business?
I do.
Michael Kavak, what is your new
I
business?
thought you said we weren't gonna do new business at the end.
We are making an exception. We are doing new business now.
Well, for example, let me make this an.
Chairman's privilege.
The people here know that George M. Cohan wrote a song depicting the theater district moving out of the current garment center. Do you know why how Times Square got its name and when? You know how many homes Madison Square Garden has had through the years? If you don't know the answer to those questions, and you took my free tour, double your money back if you're not happy, you will learn answers to those and many more questions. Thank you very much. The next one is Thursday of this week at 10:30 in the morning. We meet at the yellow button with the big needle going right through it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any new business, anything to discuss?
Just a reminder, he's primary becoming one.
Yes, early voting begins on June 14th.
Just like a civic duty, you know?
Civic engagement, make sure that you are registered to vote if you have not registered with the party. Okay,
And election day is the
election day is June 24th.
24th.
Okay,
Feeling good.
meeting adjourned.
Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Chair
Good job.
and Co-Chair.
Bye, everyone. Bye. Mhm.
Good night.
Thank you, everybody. Goodbye.
Thanks, Todd.
I was detailed of your personal finance.
Don't worry, David.
But that's
David's asking.